Fifth wheel is what you connect the trailer to, and it flexes and turns in order to be able to go up and down bumps, hills, whatever, and still keep a trailer connected to it. So you may have to move the fifth wheel for a couple different reasons. Most of the time it's for weight distribution. So you're trying to transfer some of the weight off of those axles or put some weight onto those axles and shift the load around a little bit. So generally every pin placement of the fifth wheel changes the weight by 500 pounds. That's an estimate. It's not an exact. It really depends how the load's set up and whatnot. The pins are usually only about an inch apart, so it's a minimal movement. I've only had to move, when I was over the road, I only moved my fifth wheel once. But when I was local here, I had to do it more often because I would hook up to other carriers and intermodal trailers, and I had to worry about the distance more so than the weight. But first thing I do is get the weight off of it, and that's by putting down the landing gear. And then I also let the air out of the suspension so that I have no weight on the fifth wheel. And that way it makes it a little easier to slide. At least you don't have the heavy weight bearing on it as another obstruction. When I'm trying to get the weight off of the fifth wheel, I crank up the landing gear until the landing gear hits the ground, and then I try to do another crank or two until I start to hear the airbags adjusting, which tells me the pressure is coming off of the airbags. And then I know that I've got the landing gear all the way down nice and tight. All of our trucks have a switch inside to release the pins on the fifth wheel. That's another thing that I usually do when sliding the fifth wheel is I engage the second set of drives. So I have both sets of drives going, and I have the suspension lowered and the landing gear down. Those are all things that give me a little bit of an advantage in trying to slide it. Generally, if you move it, a couple times back and forth, then it works pretty good. But usually, when you slide the fifth wheel, it doesn't slide easy. Again, it's got debris and rust and whatever. It's been just sitting in the same spot for a long time, so it tends to be real jerky and not move very easily. So, but a lot of times the first time you move it, it's you're trying to move it an inch and it moves 6 inches, or it slams all the way to one end and then it slams all the way to the other end. But that usually knocks the debris loose, and then you can generally slide it. Once you get the pins close to where you want to end up, you can flip that switch again so that the pins hopefully will pop back out, and then you just gently try to jiggle the truck into that spot so the pins will deploy back where they need to go. But there again, it's getting out, looking, getting back in, looking. Another little trick to do is sometimes your pins are hard to see because they're rusty and the same color as all those mechanisms and all the holes, and when they retract you can't see them in the back of the holes. So I like to color the front of them with chalk, and that way when they pull back in there, you got these little white objects back there. They're a lot easier to see. I also like to mark my hole that I'm shooting for with chalk, so that way when I get it lined up, I'm not guessing at it, or I don't have to sit there and count pinholes every time. A lot of times if you can find, and I have found out at truck stops, if you're trying to slide your fifth wheel, there's generally somebody else who will feel the pain with you because they've done it before and are willing to help. So somebody's walking by and like, can you watch this just to tell me when I've got it? And if you've got them nicely marked, it makes it really easy for them. So, and then they'll just tell you, back up an inch, back up, no, too far.